Hello there, welcome back to session 2 of UCFB's Work Experience Week. My name is Daniel Mayhew and I'm one of the careers coaches here at UCFB Wembley. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to create a successful sports CV. As per last time, there's a QR code on the bottom right hand side of the page, repeated throughout the presentation today. This takes you through to UCFB's website, where you can find further information about UCFB Open Days and UCFB events. The aims of today's session are to talk about the 3 main types of CV, to begin writing your personal statement for your CV and tailoring it to a specific job specification, to structure your CV professionally, and to begin drafting your covering letter, which is a document which typically accompanies your CV when making a job application. When we think about your CV is your primary marketing document. And is very often the first thing a company will see when you apply for a job. So it's very important to make it as accurate, to make it stand out, and to make it capture the attention of the employer you are trying to impress. This includes things like making sure that spelling and grammar are accurate, that you are tailoring it to the job you are applying for, rather than simply copying and pasting a CV for each and every job you are applying to, and making sure that the CV is no longer than 2 pages long. A company will typically give you 30 seconds to a minute to impress them, considering the number of applications they will get. So it's very important that you include as much relevant and job-specific information on the first page of your CV as possible, but certainly have a CV of no more than 2 pages. So on to the 3 main types of CV. The first type of CV is a chronological CV, and a CV that is chronologically ordered from most recent work experience to one that took place in the past. That is the order of a chronological CV, so making sure that your most recent job is at the top of your CV. You will have a functional or skills-based CV, and this is primarily based on the skills you've developed from various different aspects of your life and your career, rather than specifically your work history. And then the final CV type is a combination of the previous 2. So it's a combination of your chronological order of work history and your skills, in order to capture the attention of the employer who's reading it. So there are some key features to a chronological CV that would appear on all different types of CV. The first of which is your contact details, your name, address, email and phone number, if that's something you want to include. As per the previous session, you might want to include details of your social media accounts if they're professionally laid out and are talking about things that are related to the industry. One thing you won't include in the top here is any gender-specific information, any information about your age, a photo, unless you're applying to a job which requires you to present in front of camera. This can lead to potential discrimination, both positive and negative. So I would suggest that you leave these out. Again, what you would include in your CV is a personal profile. So this is a couple of sentences outlining who you are, what you are currently doing, and what you're hoping to get out of the role. As you will see, what comes next is a key skills section. So although this is a chronological CV, skills can also be put in this CV to further highlight your connectivity to the role. So if, for example, they're looking for someone with good communication, good time management, project management, and customer service skills, this is a great place to put this. What will then come next is the chronological history of your work experience. So, for example, the order we've decided to go through here, which is one I would strongly recommend for all of you, is that you mention and highlight the role. So say you're a customer service assistant, the company, and then you would mention the name of the company, and then the dates you were employed at that company. So if you are still employed there, you would put the start date, and that can simply be the month. It doesn't have to be the specific day of the month you started at that role, the year, and then to present if you are still working there. Underneath each specific work history, you might decide to include a couple of bullet points or a couple of sentences based on the experience you had of that role, your roles and responsibilities within that company. So, for example, if you're a customer service assistant, you would say assisting customers in making purchases, working on tills, handling cash transactions, etc. But here we've given examples of people who have done project management, marketing, and using their IT skills. You would then decide to do this for every single work experience that you might have, whether that's volunteering, whether that's part-time work experience or full-time work experience, to highlight these skills in chronological order. Next would come your education. So if you are studying A-levels, you would put A-levels, the school or college in which you're studying, and then the dates you are hoping to complete those. If you're studying BTECs, this is exactly the same format for this. And then your GCSEs or other areas of study. If you have done other certificates which might connect you to the industry or other qualifications, this is also a great place to put this as well. And the final section here would be your hobbies or other interests. This is a great way to showcase your passions for industry, passion for other areas, to showcase your personality, but making sure you do so in a professional capacity. Bearing in mind things like, I enjoy music and movies. Most people will say they enjoy music and movies. So what makes you unique in your passion for music and for movies? Is it that you sign up to regular magazine articles? Is it that you log into certain events? Things that can show your passion and your dedication towards that chosen passion. If you can also further connect yourself to the industry in which you're applying, in this case, sport or football, you might say things like, and if you are in fact a season ticket holder, this would be a great place to mention this. If you've subscribed to certain magazines or you've attended certain talks, this is a great place to highlight that. You may also include your references here. Majority of people who write a CV would include the phrase references available on request, and this is something that you can have when you collect references from employers or people you are studying with. That's a good place to state this. I know some people who also include details of the reference, but make sure you only include the person's name, their position, their company, and the contact detail. I would strongly suggest, though, putting references available on request and providing them when the company who are looking to hire you ask for them. But again, as it says at the bottom of this chronological CV example, make sure that your CV is no longer than 2 pages long. Next, we move on to the skills-based CV. As stated in the previous CV, which was the chronological CV, there are certain things that are clear to both CVs. Firstly, your contact details, your address, your phone number, and your email. Again, you can include your LinkedIn profile here as well. A short personal statement, and this is where it starts to differ. So in looking at the job description, which we'll talk about shortly, you notice that looking for technical skills, you would include details of the technical skills that you have and perhaps where you built those skills. You can also see that this individual has included details of team working skills, communication skills, and problem solving skills. So again, he has highlighted, this John Smith character has highlighted these skills as important to the job application he is currently making, and is highlighting where he has built these skills and what skills he has had within these certain headings. So this could be a potential avenue for you to showcase your skills if you don't have much work experience. The skills-based CV also has space for education settings and education history. So what you would choose to put here is your this individual put the UCFB history, but again, you might include details of your A-levels, BTECs, GCSEs, and other qualifications. And again, please make sure this is under 2 pages long. So this is a skills-based CV, a CV which goes through a list of skills which are directly related to the job and highlighting them in order, whilst also including details of the education. And then finally, the third type of CV is a combination CV. So what you will see here is exactly that. It is a combination of skills, so the key skills built in certain areas. It will highlight a bit of work history laid out in the order of the chronological CV, and it will include details of the person's education. What I find most typically when someone is applying for a job or when I'm advising students, so first years through to MSc level students, that they would include a combination CV. So they would use a particular layout to highlight how they are connected to the job they are applying for, and also using their work history to show that they are capable of doing the job. It is important to remember that there is no one particular format which works perfectly well for all situations. It'll be up to you to decide which one works best for you and your job applications and your career aspirations. So please work with your school's teams, your school's careers advisors, friends, family to help you decide how to lay out your CV. But ultimately, it needs to sell you in the best way possible, and you need to be comfortable with how it sells you. So then we come on to the most difficult part of a CV, I believe, to write, which is the personal statement. A personal statement is 3, maybe 4 sentences about yourself, what you are currently doing, what you are hoping to get out of the application you are making. So it needs to be succinct. So again, 3 or 4 sentences, absolutely maximum. Don't make it look like a paragraph. It needs to be 2 or 3, even 4 clear sentences. It needs to be relevant. So you need to mention the job you're applying for in the personal statement section and why you are applying. This again connects the CV to the job you're applying for and shows the recruiter or the person hiring for this role that you have tailored this to them and to their particular offer. And be confident but not arrogant. There is a fine line between confidence and arrogance. So if you have strong communication skills, if you have a strong skill that is connected directly to the job you're applying for, this is a perfect place to mention it. But don't say you are a brilliant communicator or you are a perfect communicator. This is very hard to qualify or quantify. So make sure you are making confident statements, not arrogant statements in your personal statement section. So I would suggest a task. So taking this presentation away with you today, I would have a look at the 3 different types of CV that I've highlighted to you in today's presentation and have a think about which order works best for you. If you have a number of different part-time jobs, would a chronological CV work best for you? If you don't have a long history of work experience or no part-time roles, think about using the skills-based CV or the functional CV, because this is a good way of demonstrating that you are aware of the skills that they are looking for and how you can showcase them. Or actually, do you have a combination of both? Do you have some work experience and you have some experience of project work at school or volunteering? Maybe a combination CV could be the best way forward for you. So we come on to a very important point here, and it's something that I've mentioned throughout today's presentation. It is making sure that your CV is relevant to the job you are applying for. So these are some tips to help ensure that your CV gets a serious consideration in comparison to other people who are applying to the role. So the first thing to do is look at job specifications from jobs that you're looking to apply for. What you can do with this is look for some of the key skills, look at some of the projects that the company is working on, and some of the traits that you will need to have and to demonstrate as part of your application in order for someone to offer you the opportunity. Job specifications can be found on job websites. They can be found on places like LinkedIn, which I mentioned in the last session, or you can look at newspaper articles, etc., which highlight some of the key skills that people are looking for in these roles. If you use more than one advert, you might reference a skill the employer hasn't thought of, and this could elevate your application. So what I might suggest is that you look across a couple of different areas, across similar skills, across similar industries, and see if the role has skills that are advertised as necessary in different areas. So say you might see the job advertised in 2 different areas, so be it potentially totaljobs.com or prospects.ac.uk or various different other job websites. You might decide to include a skill that might not be referenced on this job specification, which might be directly relevant to the job, and this can help elevate your application in the eyes of the recruiter. And even if you haven't got specific career experience, so if you haven't got directly relevant experience in an area, you can evidence your experience and connection to the industry through your passions. So it's not necessarily you need to have work experience in order to get a job. You might decide to highlight some skills you have developed in other areas, such as school, through volunteering, for other opportunities that can help highlight your skills as well. For example, as this statement here says, in my spare time, I produce reports on match analysis in preparation for my first coaching role. So the student who wrote this is looking to get their first coaching role outside of university, but to further highlight his passion for the industry, he stated that he produces reports on match analysis in order to help qualify him as a suitable candidate for this role. So a task associated with this would be to find 3 job specifications for the style of role that you'd be interested in doing. So have a look at total jobs, have a look at jobs in football, have a look at careers in football, have a look at a variety of different job searching engines and job websites to see what job specifications exist and how you could tailor your CV to those roles. What I would also suggest you do is either have a file on your computer or print these out and keep them to one side. So when you are developing personal statements later in today's session or later on in your career journey, you can refer to the skills that are necessary in this job and either look to fill the gaps in experience that you do have or the skills that you do have, or to help you develop personal profile statements that will help you apply for the jobs in the future. Next, I would like to highlight confidence. Confidence is something that employers are looking for. It means that you'd be potentially a good employee. But again, as I stated earlier, it is important to be this confident side rather than arrogance. So making sure you're using the correct language to highlight your confidence rather than arrogance. If you are confident and you're using strong positive language, as said on the slide here, the employer will see that you have belief in yourself and awareness of your own skills. So here I have included 2 statements. I'm going to read both statements out to you, and hopefully it'll be obvious which statement is a stronger statement. The first statement says, I think I could be good at an admin role, as I did some work experience and shadowed the finance department of a National League club. The second statement states, I feel I would be a great addition to your team as I learnt a lot from the National League Finance Department while shadowing. I also provided support for a variety of existing projects from ticketing to admin, and I am keen to utilise these skills. So on reflection, which of these 2 statements is stronger? And I'm hoping you'll come to the conclusion that the second statement is by far the strongest statement. It is showcasing what the individual learnt, what they enjoyed about the opportunity, and shows that their passion for utilising these skills in future roles. So now it is time to start working on your personal statement. So taking into consideration the job specifications you've researched, taking into consideration the skills you might be looking to demonstrate, it is important to remember that the personal statement section has to be relevant to the job you are applying for. An employer who may look at hundreds, if not thousands of CVs throughout their career will instantly know if the job's personal statement for their job is not related to their applications. So be sure to tailor it to the job you're applying for. So therefore, you are using your job specifications as a basis for your statement so you can focus your CV towards your chosen role. Again, tailoring everything on the CV, including the personal statement, to the job you are applying for. The second section of applying for a role, and the second document, apologies, is the supporting cover letter and the research you do to support that covering letter. So when you are tailoring your CV, it is important to do the research on the company you're applying to. So looking at the projects they're getting involved with, looking at the people they're looking to hire, perhaps looking on LinkedIn to see who else works for that organization and reaching out to them and asking what they're looking for in a potential employee. If you can make a reference to some key points in your covering letter, then this will give your CV an advantage over other applicants. So it is important, again, that you tailor your covering letter to the CV. So you are highlighting skills in your CV and you are highlighting why you'd be suitable for a particular role at that organization. What you will see is that I've produced a working book for you. So referring to this, there's an example of how to lay out a covering letter, which will be the basis for future covering letters for yourself. And with this in mind, have a go at taking time to start your covering letter. A covering letter is essentially an extended personal statement. So it's stating why you are applying to that particular role in an organization, highlighting some of the key skills that you have that are related to the role, and further highlighting your passion for applying and doing well in the role itself moving forward. Do your research. Perhaps you should reach out to people at the organization and ask what they are looking for in a potential employee. And don't be shy. If you are talented at a particular skill, it is important to let the individual know that you have those skills and that you'd be a suitable candidate for their role. So this concludes today's presentation into CVs and covering letters. We've covered 3 different types of CV. We've talked about different layouts. We've talked about how to maximize your personal statement to connect you to the role you are applying for. We have highlighted the need for good levels of research into the company and the organization to make sure that all documents you send to the company, which are your marketing documents and may be the first way that a company gets to know you, are tailored to the jobs that you are applying for. The workbook that has been sent across as part of this has some key ideas for you and layouts for CVs and covering letters, so have a look at those when you have some time. Thank you very much for listening to me today. I look forward to hearing from you all in session 3. Thanks very much.